we started our operations back in March of 2009. And I became involved just as an investor because back in the days when I was a physiotherapist, I saw so many great athletes coming through my office, and almost to a person, they were all using cannabis in one form or another. Some of the contact sport athletes were using cannabis to help control pain, inflammation, help them sleep at night. They had access to all kind of pharmaceutical medications, opioids, etc. But almost to a person, they preferred the natural botanical cannabis. And I got to see this, and even with some of the non-contact sport people, the ones who did strenuous exercise routines and workouts, they loved a little cannabis before because it just helped them to get into the zone a little bit quicker. So I said, okay, there's got to be some science to this, and so I was doing some continuing education somewhere. I forgot what the city was, but just across town, they were giving a medical cannabis symposium. And so I went and took 2 days worth of courses, and I couldn't believe the amount of research that was going on in the field of cannabinoid science. And it just was something when I got the education, the awareness, I said, my gosh, I just can't go back. So public company started back in March of '09. I said, I've got to become involved as an original investor, and I was the number 7 investor in the company, and eventually some of the principals found out who I was and asked me if I could help them raise some venture capital for some of my Wall Street buddies. I used to work on Wall Street for 11 years when I started my career. And we did raise some capital, we got started, and it was so fun. The original founders of the company were 2 of the largest drug smugglers in the history of the United States. And they had absolutely incredible stories about how they'd go overseas and have their friends with their freighters all bring in cannabis to the country, and how they'd have these stash houses, and they'd buy $500,000 worth of real estate every week just to stash their product, and within a few days it was all gone. And no matter how much cannabis they brought into the country, within 3 weeks it was all distributed. It's amazing. And today, if you look at what's going on in Colorado, truly this underground, this black market, if you will, is $120 billion worth, which slowly we're looking to bring that into the normal economy. And if you look at what's going on in states such as Colorado and Washington, my gosh, there is absolutely no sign of any kind of recession. Right. There's only prosperity happening there. Crime is down, jobs, employment's up, people are having a great time. It's absolutely amazing to see what's going on. And my gosh, why can't we bring this to the rest of the country and get this across the finish line? But anyway, the story of CBD, I guess, well, we had Brad mention something about the difference the other day, I guess it was last night, the difference between $1 million and $1 billion and all the rest. And so that kind of got me thinking about some of the original ways that actually CBD kind of started in the U.S. And just to give some of the new people in particular, I know many of you people who've been coming to some of my regular presentations have heard this well before, but of course back in the 1960s and 70s when cannabis was becoming popular in the U.S., there were some enterprising marijuana growers and botanists who said, my gosh, let's try growing a high concentration CBD in a marijuana crop, and maybe we could smoke it and get a certain effect. Well, so a high concentration CBD crop was grown and harvested. They dried the leaves and rolled it up into a marijuana joint and tried to smoke it, and there was no effect. So CBD became known as the hippies' disappointment. So anyway, I'm involved with Medical Marijuana Inc., and then 2 years after its inception, March of 2011, a new group came in to take over the company, bought the company out from the original investors, and had been looking at CBD. And so I got to meet them, I think it was April 1st of 2011. We had a nice sit-down conversation. I said, CBD, you mean the hippies' disappointment? You're really looking at this again? And they said, yes, we really were. And so they gave me a good education because they've been working with European farmers for a couple of years prior to try to grow a high concentration of CBD in a hemp crop. And just because you couldn't get an effect by smoking a cannabis joint with CBD didn't mean that if you couldn't extract the oils and tinctures and have a little bit higher concentration of CBD, maybe you get some kind of therapeutic effect. And so they educated me, and I said, okay, I'm all in. So our crop, which was grown that year, was about our third growing cycle, and each year we got significantly higher concentrations of CBD. So the fall of 2011 over in Europe, we said, yep, we think we have enough CBD in this hemp crop to potentially be therapeutic. So we went ahead and did our harvest, extractions, and the company actually was in need of capital to pay. We had to prepay for all the oil, so they came to me, and I actually had some of my old medical marijuana Inc. shares that were just kind of sitting around gathering dust. But all of a sudden, there was a little rally in the market, and I was able to sell off some shares. We wrote the initial checks to buy our initial extraction worth of CBD into Europe, and develop the import-export regulations to get it back into the U.S., start our final product formulations, which were then available about the middle of the year 2012. And so that's how this whole industry was been born. And since this time, we've had 230 additional public companies come into the space. So obviously we're doing something right, and certainly believe in the therapeutic opportunities here with these non-psychoactive cannabinoids, and particularly CBD. So, long story short, this is kind of how it all started and evolved. And along at this time, my business associate and I started a public company that is called Cannabis Corporation, and this was the company who we put in place to have this exclusive supply arrangement coming into the U.S. And, the story developed quite nicely, and then along about, April of 2014, we started Canaway, the multi-level marketing company, and there was a real big interest in the investor marketplace, and Cannabis Corporation rose to a market capitalization of $6.5 billion. My business associate owned 60% of the company, so he was sitting pretty. And we could have really had a wonderful, sustainable business with this. However, management kind of went rogue on us a little bit, and unfortunately, things deteriorated. Cannabis broke some of their exclusive supply arrangements, other contracts, whatever, just a long, protracted mess. So anyway, long story short, we wound up just totally abandoning Cannabis Corporation after this huge rally and run-up. But we've had the experience of doing this once before, so my business associate and I put some time and effort back into General Hemp, built this all up, and great things have been happening since. And since bringing in Blake and Brad about 13 months ago, my gosh, the growth, the acceleration, the momentum. I mean, truly, this is revolutionary what's happening here. I mean, they said we're going to bring this to $1 billion in annual revenue. And sure enough, these guys are really doing it. Now, I don't know a lot about the comp map, but $1 billion in annual revenue, I think we're going to be paying some sales associates pretty well throughout this. I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll be paying out $500 million. And back in the Carolinas, we kind of say, well, the money's out there, why don't you go get some? So hopefully you all will build tremendous businesses, because everything at this stage is truly at the ground floor of this entire industry. And we're certainly excited to have this wonderful opportunity here for you. So let me just go ahead with the presentation and look at some of our slides. And just for some of the new beginners here, we want to really distinguish what we're doing versus the rest of this amazing industry, because there's obviously a great interest in marijuana throughout the U.S. 30 states in the U.S. have fully legalized cannabis for medicinal use. Some of the recent states, such as Pennsylvania and Ohio. Pennsylvania has 18 different indications for medical use. Ohio, 21 different indications. And certainly the recent state, West Virginia, legalized because of this terrible opioid overdose death epidemic, where at one point the state couldn't even keep up with all the funerals because of this crazy opioid overdose death. And they saw in the U.S. states where cannabis is legal, the incidence of opioid overdose death is 30% lower. So they said, my gosh, we have to legalize cannabis. But anyway, to give you an overview, particularly new people, if we look at the cannabis plant as maybe being the parent plant, we have two offspring. On one side, you've got marijuana, which contains your psychoactive cannabinoid, THC. And this has an intoxicating type effect. On the other side, you have industrial hemp, which contains the non-psychoactive cannabinoids, and particularly CBD, or cannabidiol, which is obviously what our company is focused in. And here you can see the difference that hemp can grow very tall and lengthy, and a very short, 90 to 120-day growing season. It may grow as tall as 10 to 20 feet in height. Around the world, it's grown mostly for its fiber and industrial use, and certainly the hemp seeds are very nutritious. Of course, you can go to any health food store in the U.S. and buy your hemp seed oil, and hemp protein powder. Marijuana, on the other side, is generally grown very short and bushy. It's grown for a very high concentration of THC, but there really isn't any industrial use or application. Hemp foods, of course, are fully legal throughout the U.S., and even though you can go into, say, a Whole Foods and buy a bag of hemp seed, which may actually contain enough THC to where if you're military personnel, you could actually ping a drug test, but nonetheless, this is fully legal throughout the U.S. But on the other side, I guess we'll have to update some of the numbers here, but of course, marijuana remains illegal at the federal level. We now have 30 U.S. states plus Washington, D.C., again, legalizing for medical use. But there are also 17 other states that have what are called CBD-only laws. So here, a parent can possess a high concentration of THC, but also enough CBD to potentially assist children with epileptic seizure disorders so the families don't have to relocate to Colorado. Anyway, long story short, in 47 of our 50 U.S. states, you can get some legal form of cannabis or another. And that's quite exciting, certainly. We also have 8 states now that have legalized cannabis for recreational use. Certainly this looks to be 2 more states that perhaps coming on by this summer. Now from the cannabis plant, we have what are called cannabinoids, and these are special compounds or extracts that can be derived from the cannabis plant family. And there are 80 to 100 very well known and researched cannabinoids, but every day science, it seems, is finding another new cannabinoid. I was just recently at a lecture symposium in Washington, D.C., and a group from Europe mentions there are now 144 known and named cannabinoids. 4 more have actually been found, but they haven't been named yet, so there are about 148 different cannabinoids, and these are all characteristic of your cannabis plant family. It's interesting to note that cannabinoids are also expressed in other plants, things such as flax, hops, echinacea, and common tea, kava. So generally, these cannabinoids, at least many generations or centuries ago, were all naturally part of our diets. In addition to cannabinoids, there are about another 400 other chemical compounds that are consistent with the cannabis plant family. These are your terpenoids, your flavonoids, your plant waxes, chlorophyll. And all these ingredients act in a very synergistic manner. We even mentioned one of these cannabinoid-like compounds, beta-carotene, which basically is found in black pepper and cloves. It gives the kind of spiciness to black pepper. But it does, it's a terpenoid, but it does carry interesting cannabinoid-like effects. So what it does, it helps to open up your cannabinoid receptor sites throughout the body. So many people who are regular cannabis users, for example, will sprinkle a lot of black pepper on their food maybe a half hour or so before they consume cannabis. Others will actually eat a ripe mango because a mango also has an interesting property that actually allows the cannabinoid receptors to open up, so that if you then do use cannabis or even our CBD products, you might get more of an enhanced effect. So interesting to see the synergistic compound of all these chemical ingredients coming together. And here's a nice picture description that just mentions all the various components, where you can see your terpenes, and of course our new essential oil line based very heavily on certain terpenoids and the potential therapeutic benefits of these terpenoids. Certainly there's been some great research over the years showing some very interesting anti-inflammatory type of properties. So back in the mid-1980s, science had discovered this amazing endogenous cannabinoid system. And this is still far under-recognized for its tremendous value. But this endogenous cannabinoid system is the largest self-regulatory system in the human body, and it governs such functions as mood, sleep, appetite, hormone production, the digestion of food, even your metabolism. And certainly within our bodies, we have our own cannabinoids that we naturally produce. And these are wonderful components, but unfortunately they're very quickly degraded by enzymatic activity. And the major endogenous cannabinoids are anandamide, as well as a long chemical name we abbreviated by 2AG. But any of you who'd like to get a copy of this presentation from our support group, there's a wonderful 3.5-minute presentation by Dr. David Allen and his review of the endogenous cannabinoid system. So Dr. David Allen is a retired cardiac surgeon, and basically he says that by manipulation of the endogenous cannabinoid system, we will actually save than from all the spherical surgical techniques that have ever been developed. And he's a retired cardiac surgeon saying this. So